Feels good to win, Justin. It feels good to win. Not pretty, but it feels good to win. Let's do it. I didn't know if you want to say anything before the intro. I'm sorry.
Oh, I mean, I wasn't sure where you were going with that. If you're going to do your little thing, all right.
We are.
I mean, we badly needed this. It's still a mess, and there's still things that need to be cleaned up. This was a big moment in terms of if you want to establish a culture of winning, like going for it on fourth down. I know we both said that when we were talking that was a bad call. We should have taken the kick because you're effectively conceding if you don't get it.
Mm-hmm.
But in this environment with this team, I think you have to teach them, hey, we have got to play to win. We've got to play like winners. We've got to do what it's going to take.
I still feel it.
Pulse a little high.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's a great intro. I want to talk about that play specifically next. Let me hit the intro now.
Yep.
We're playing it by ear today. That's the reaction.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on? You guys know the drill. Therapy show, your team every day. Today's episode brought to you by PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnCollege. Use code LockedOnCollege for our first deposit match up to $100. Daily fantasy sports made easy. And this is the therapy session. And I've had a sad sound drop for the therapy session that I created just, and it's the only one I've been able to play. So I finally get to play the happy one. You ready for this one?
Sure.
This is awesome. It's a good day for me. Come on in here, buddy. Get up on that line. This is awesome.
That's looping. Sorry.
At first, I thought that was Aziz Ansari.
No, I don't know. I pulled it somewhere. This is awesome. It's a good day for us. And, jump on the line. Let's talk about it. So let's start there with that call. We started talking about the overtime, fourth and short. Luke Fickell decides to go for it. We had missed two previous fourth and shorts, like literally in the second half.
Which is why I didn't like the idea of going for it more than anything. Like I would have been open to it if we had been, if we had proven that we're a team that's capable of enforcing our will, I would have been okay with the call. The way this team has looked on fourth and shorts or short yardage situations in general this season, I don't love it because it's very much felt like luck. But this team needs some of that confidence to basically pull out of this and be like, hey, it's a growth moment for the team, and being able to get that is a big deal.
I didn't like the call either. Like I'm going to be honest. Like I'm not going to hindsight it. I did not like the call for you. The same reason you talked about the struggles there. If you miss it, you're conceding the game. Nebraska's offense hadn't looked good the entire second half. So I didn't feel super worried. I mean, as a fan, I was worried, but it felt like you could hold them to a field goal attempt, which obviously the defense stepped up. So I didn't like the call, but I will say this. It's nice that – because what would the reaction be if they had made that call and they didn't get it? And
God.
It would have been roasted, right? And despite that, he still made the call that he felt like in the moment was the right call, and that takes some guts.
Oh, 100%. I mean, Fickell basically that was a line in the sand by a coach. Like when you talk about line in the sand, we can talk about the Paul Chris stuff and all the things in the long term. That is a coach saying, we're going to do this, and we're going to either live with not getting it. I'm going to be and he's going to be the one that takes the brunt of it.
Oh yeah.
If they don't get that call, he is going to be set on fire by the media and everybody else who are just going to abuse him.
By us too.
So yeah, exactly. So him doing that and saying, hey, I believe, let's go ahead and get this done. That to me is a coach saying, hey, we're in this together. Let's get this done. If you're going to go down, I'm going down with you, more or less.
Yeah. I was nervous as hell for that. So here's the problem in the fourth and like the short yardage stuff. There's nothing we feel really confident in because Mordecai takes a little too long to usually get the ball out of his hands. So it's quick.
And the snaps aren't always great.
Snaps aren't great. And Braylon Allen's not 100%. And this isn't the offensive line of your. Did you like, and again, some of them worked and some of them didn't. Do you like the inside power out of the shotgun on fourth and short with this offense?
No, quite frankly, there's one defender on the entire Nebraska team that I'm not a fan of running. Actually, their two best defenders probably on defense are Hutemacher and what is the linebacker's name? That was
number 3. Yeah, and
the middle. You know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
But they're probably the 2 strongest players on the defense, and it's like I don't really want to be running directly into those 2 guys. Like I know we're sending extra blockers, but good Lord, man, this is something that it's not necessarily the situation that I want to be pulling in this play. But hey, we got it done.
Bo Drayton says the call to go for it was trash. Let's see. Will Kent says if you're 3rd and 1 with this team, you go quarterback sneak.
I think I don't disagree with that. If you can go under center, I think you 100% do that. I mean, I think anybody in football in general at this point, that's the play you run. Like, why give the defense time to react? Like, if you believe in your offensive line at all, you have to run the quarterback. Like Tom Brady made a career of it.
Yeah. And by the way, that's where, again, it just seems like if you have a super athletic quarterback on the roster, maybe you use him. But anyway,
yeah.
Derry Raid says, hey, I just woke up. What did I miss? Actually, a fun one. A fun therapy session. Let's kind of just talk about some of the key points in the game, Justin. And then I want to kick it over to you for the second segment of this and where you want to go. Let's start with the 14-0 slow start. Because once again, this is not like a dominant win. This is an ugly win. I am super happy for a win right now, so I'm not really dwelling on the negatives. But this is still, once again, you come out, you're not ready to play. You're down 14-0. Nebraska basically punched through this defense like it was. I mean, we look terrible.
Okay, so yeah, there's a couple things there. Like the effort level on defense, the tackling is atrocious. The angles that were taken on that Chubba Purdy touchdown were just brutal. Just brutal. The mental strength of this defense is not there. Like they're not a smart defense. And there was a remark made during the game where they said, this is a defense that likes to sit back and kind of mentally kind of take in what the offense is doing. And I'm like, that's not how you play college football. Like
you can't.
NFL, you might want to feel out a team a little bit if you're a defense because the guys are playing at such a high level. You can't just play with your hair on fire. In college football, you are aggressive. You attack and you make them react to you because 9 times out of 10, a college quarterback is going to make a dumb play. They just do. And this defense completely takes them off the hook by not getting things done and playing aggressive or just making bad decisions themselves. Like we're aggressive in all the wrong ways this season.
Well, and to your point, there's no reason to. Some of that was just like that. The NBC crew was pretty bad. Multiple times they talked about how good Muma's been this year, about how the snap issues gone away, and like they were surprised by a few snap issues. Like they were pretty bad all game. And early on, they said, "Well, this is a team that likes to sit, like you said, like sits back and see. You know what Nebraska's going to do? They're going to run the ball.
They're going to run the football.
You don't need to sit back for a quarter to see what like Nebraska is going to bring to the table. There should have been no surprise there. The other thing I'd say on that first Purdy run, you saw some of the athletic limitations on this defense once again, right? Yeah. He just pulled away from
we saw him all game. Like how Jordan Turner, good God. Like he's got to be like a 4.8 middle linebacker. He is so slow.
Yeah.
Because the difference in athleticism and speed between him and Allegro is jarring when you watch him run. Because it was clear that Purdy was like uncomfortable when Allegro came off the edge chasing at him because he's like, I can't outrun this guy. And when he saw Turner, he's like, okay, this guy I could take.
Well, quite frankly, he outran angles on Turner, on Muma, on Daryl Peterson in the second half. Now, Daryl Peterson made a really nice play in overtime, stringing out an option play. But most of our team in the front seven, we do lack a little bit of speed. But I want to talk about that dude, Justin, coming up. I got to take a quick break, but that freshman linebacker, let's talk about him next. And then I want to ask you who else on offense is your player of the game. But first, we're going to take a quick break here. We're going to turn this over to Justin kind of in the next segment so you can run with it. And then we'll get into all your comments in the third segment. But first, I want to talk about our good friends of the show over at PrizePicks. PrizePicks is daily fantasy sports made easy. And if you're like Justin and me, we're not smart enough to battle with people who really dive into analytics all day to play daily fantasy. That's not who we are. We don't have the ability to compete against the nerds out there. PrizePicks is made for people like Justin, like me, like y'all, who just want to go in and have a good feel for players and situations. You just pick between 2 and 6 players, over under on statistical categories, in and out, quick, fast. I clickety-click within 60 seconds. I got my picks. I got my players. I'm ready to make money. Plus, with Apple Pay, the payouts are incredibly fast, quick, easy, safe, and secure. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnCollege. Use code LockedOnCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks.com/LockedOnCollege. Use code LockedOnCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks, daily fantasy sports made easy. All right, let's get Justin back engaged on this. Christian Allegro.
He's going to be a stud. If he understands the game, he is going to be an absolute beast because athletically, he's a dude. He's got great length. He's a guy who can really run. And a year he gets stronger here, he's going to start to be a problem for offensive linemen because he's going to be the type of guy. He's going to be a little bit like Chanel in that he's going to get into you so fast with so much speed that it's going to be hard to keep him to like extend on him and keep him at bay. And that's something that none of the other guys can really do. They get kind of swallowed up because athletically they don't have the ability to kind of come downhill and cause a offensive lineman to get uncomfortable. And that's the difference there. And plus, Allegro's just really good at disengaging too. Like yes. he came in, he really just comes off and is just like, all right, well, it's not there. He plays it smart. Like a couple of times he chased down Purdy to the sideline. He realized that he wasn't getting through and he bailed and he's like, all right, I'm coming around on the edge instead. And it was huge that he did that.
Yeah, you hit on something there that I think is really impressive. Like he doesn't stay blocked. He understands angles. He'll dip his shoulder. He attacks the proper gaps. A lot of our defensive front seven, they just get Velcroed onto guys, or they on our blitz, they just will. It's almost like there's an element of some of our pass rush blitzes where they just want to take a guy on and just see who's going to win. Meanwhile, the quarterback's running out of the pocket, leaving the play, right? Allegro will get pressure, but he disengages and he's incredibly quick. Timothy Palm has a good point here. Taking good angles isn't really just about speed. Our linebackers just take more angles.
That's another part of it too. The other part I want to say on this, there's people asking why he wasn't in there for the entire time. I think that the coaching staff probably isn't comfortable with him and reading his keys in the run game. So they're a little bit worried that he's going to get beat by making a poor decision and it's going to lead to big plays, would be my guess why he's not out there. Because he was out there in obvious passing downs.
Jesse Wilder says Allegro will be a perfect fit when they play the speed spread teams, Oregon, USC. By the way, also, he's going to play a lot better than we typically played in space against the Ohio States, right? And the Penn States and the Michigan. Like, he's just a different level of athlete, and he knows. Let's flip it to offense, Justin. Thoughts on who is your offensive player of the game? I got three people in my head.
Yeah, I have a couple too. Obviously, you have to give it to Braylon Allen. Like, he was banged up. He didn't have a great game, but he played hard and he played hurt. And he got the job done today. And that's some of the things that he's been really beat on by fans and as well as us. Like, he doesn't always play like a guy who's, really tough at times. And today he showed that toughness. When we needed him to make plays in this game, and in order to win this one, he got the job done, even though it wasn't pretty. Number two, Will Pauling. He was the safety valve of the offense the entire game. And if he doesn't have a couple of catches, this game is a completely different game, and we probably lose. And then finally, you could say Mordecai with his running ability. He was efficient. I mean, the problem with Mordecai is that there were also several times in this game where I was just sitting there like the internal clock needs to be screaming in your head, get rid of the football or break the pocket. And he's just sitting in there. And it's like, good Lord, man, nothing good is going to happen with how long you're sitting in there.
So I agree with all those. Every single one of those. Braylon Allen, we've talked about the durability. You hit it on the head. You can't question his toughness in this game. Will Pauling is the only receiver, and I want to put this comment up, Justin, so we can talk about from Commandant. He feels like the only receiver who creates separation consistently. So I agree with you. There's times Mordecai needs to throw the ball. There's also times when they show the all 22 on the broadcast, and you're like, every dude is locked up.
Yeah. You watch. The interesting thing is you watch Pauling is he's open normally and he doesn't look like he's running all out a lot of the time on his routes. And I'm like, how is he getting separation? Or is the cornerback just kind of jogging with him on this? Because I would think you'd be just all over the guy, but maybe they're afraid to go too fast and have him make a cut and just, then suddenly it's a broken play and you're,
I think the burst is unique with him. Like he's really, he really starts and stops quickly. Yeah. I think it puts pressure on defensive backs, whereas our other guys feel a little like they're slow speed gatherers, right? It takes them a while to get going and they just can't separate. Now, again, Mordecai has plays too where, gosh, he started really slow. There were some terrible throws he had. But I agree with you. I go Pauling and Braylon Allen, and then I go Mordecai just for his ability to move the ball with his legs.
Yeah, he had countless big runs that moved the offense down the field, and I didn't love it. It wasn't a perfect game. Like he missed a huge wide open pass to Will Pauling that is probably a touchdown if he puts that ball where it needs to be and Pauling can run into it. And, that's been the kind of the consistent thing we've seen most of the season. But he made, if we don't win this game if he doesn't make several of the plays that he made during this game.
Yeah, there's a couple comments in the chat. And again, I'm not going to get to all of them today. We'll do a wrap-up show as well, or I will at least. Caleb says we are unimpressed, but at this point, he's just getting a win. There's no.
Yeah, it's huge. We won't deny that. This is, like you said, this was a big moment for this team to get a win under their belt and to do some things like have an experience picking up that fourth down where your coach believes in you and you go out and you actually execute the play. And then the touchdown too. Like getting that touchdown with Braylon Allen and having them just get pushed into the end zone and just physically manhandling Nebraska to get in the end zone on that play is a big deal for an offense that struggled to make plays like that happen this season. So it was a couple of huge moments for this team to kind of grow a little bit. There are going to be some of these guys that are back. Like I know we've talked about guys getting kind of flushed out. There's still going to be, the whole two deep isn't going to be flushed out the window. There's going to be some of these guys coming back, and you still have to experience that growth. They need to see the positives and get some confidence from the remainder of the season, whether it be, hopefully we win one against Minnesota next week and then a bowl game too. You can end this on a really good note for the season, even though it's been a season that is less than what we would have liked.
Yeah. Ryan says a good Wisconsin team would have beaten this trash Nebraska team by 27. I agree, but this isn't a good Wisconsin team. So you just got to win ugly. Everything Justin said, you can still finish this season with back-to-back wins against Nebraska and hopefully Minnesota get 2 trophies. And then honestly, Justin, it's just about get to the offseason and freaking regroup.
Yeah. 100%. We talked about this, and I don't know if we ever talked about it on a podcast. Luke Fickell came into this only seeing these players play against each other for better or worse, other than the bowl game. So yes, he may have felt good about it, but you're feeling good about it just watching these guys play each other. And when you start to play a schedule, you get to really see where your glaring weaknesses are. Mm-hmm. And now he's had an entire season to kind of look at the roster and be like, this is where we're wanting. These are the areas that we need to, shore up and get much better in. And now he has an idea of like, hey, we are missing talent at these places. We really need to fix this. I think that's something he's really going to attack this offseason. Now there's going to be some guys that come back, but I think there's a lot of youth that's going to also make a movement in this offseason too. That's going to be like we talked about it. Allegro's going to start next year. Like there's no chance unless mentally he's just has a nickel head. And I don't want to say that about him because I know nothing, but the instincts seem to be there. The athleticism is definitely there and the speed is definitely there. So he projects really well for next year. And I would say if he gets locked in on the system, he's the best linebacker we have right now.
Yeah, he's absolutely playing next year. He's going to play next year, even if he did have a 5-cent head, Justin, because he's got 4.55 speed.
Just go out there and attack. Yeah,
right, 4.6.
You're splitting hairs. He's an above average speed linebacker for sure.
He's absolutely going to play. I want to take one more quick break. Then I want to really just turn over to comments. So, Justin, if you see any anything that you really want to talk about, I definitely want to talk about Hunter Wohler a little bit and the ability to come back and not give up on this game when it's 14-0. We're going to take a quick break. Again, Justin, find any comments that you want to talk about. Today's show is also brought to you by our Game Changer of the Week. Today's Game Changer of the Week, there's a couple we could go with, but I'm going with Braylon Allen. Again, statistically, not the greatest game, but that light touchdown, moving the legs, he put it all out there, right? And he ran tough, he ran hard, physical, and he gave this team what it needed to get. And that's a game changer week for me. And much like Braylon Allen, Athletic Brewing is changing the non-alcoholic beer game. Listen, I put a few bad pounds on. I need to do a little non-alcoholic beer, lose the hangover, be a little more svelte. And plus over 50 varieties of Goldens, Sours, IPAs. So whatever you want from those kind of craft breweries, you can get from Athletic Brewing. And you can drink them anytime, Justin. You can drink them, going to the local bus stop or on the patio with friends, going bowling, mowing the lawn, building something for your kiddos. Athletic Brewing is fit for all times. And now you can get it in-store online. Go to athleticbrewing.com. Use code LOCKEDON. That's code LOCKEDON at checkout for 15% off Athletic Brewing. Near beer exclusions and conditions apply. Athletic Brewing Company, fit for all times. All right, Justin, what do you got for some comments here?
Well, one of the first things here is from Drew Andrist. On Justin's point, it seems here. I'll throw it up. On Justin's point, it seems that like guys who aren't getting the ball or don't run their routes hard. Yeah, probably. I mean, that's kind of the tip off that we've heard, and that's not exclusive to Wisconsin. That's something that happens. You talk about guys in the NFL that do the same thing. They know they're a decoy on a play. They don't necessarily run as hard as they probably should, and those are the guys that end up not making it on a roster eventually, because if the talent's not there to carry you, eventually coaching staffs are like, why we're not going to give you the ball more when you're not playing hard all the time. Another one here is from John Burns. Mordecai played hurt every play of the game. He gets the game ball. Not to take away from Allen and Pauling, Mordecai first and foremost is why the Badgers won. You know, it's pretty close to me when you look across the board. If without Allen, I don't think they win it, because I don't trust Mordecai to get those touchdowns near the goal line. And that's something that was important for Wisconsin, because as much as Mordecai was able to run around earlier in the season, against a team like this, I just don't think he's going to be able to get the angles you want for him to be able to, in the inside the 10, get to the end zone against some of these other Big Ten teams. So I think it was a big deal that they had Braylon make those plays.
I will say this for Mordecai. So, and John, it is a good point. The legs, there was probably 4 sacks that he avoided, right?
Yeah.
Even if they didn't big plays.
And a couple of them, he ended up springing for huge plus yardage.
Nebraska couldn't handle him in the pocket. And then there was a couple egregiously bad snaps that he was able to corral. There's one where he had the one-handed. And then the other thing I would say, how many turnovers for Mordecai? Handling the ball the entire game. No picks, no fumbles. So, yeah, like he played really well, especially in the second half. It was a slow start, but he played really well today overall. And especially in the second half, you gotta tip your cap.
Yeah. I mean, let's be honest. When he was coming into the season, we all were hoping for big things from him, but he really hasn't been bad. He just hasn't been what we wanted him to be. Like, he's been more or less very average, I guess you'd say, but he hasn't been negative for the most part. He just hasn't been the guy you would expect to make winning plays. There's very Joel Stave in what he did. Whereas, like, you watch him play and he's not really hurting you, but he's not really helping you in the game. And he's moving the ball down the field, but you're not necessarily getting points. And you're like, this is driving me insane. I need you to make a play here and there that's an above average play. Now, he does some really nice things with his legs that keep the offense moving, which I think we'd all agree this is a broken offense right now. And him being able to move the ball with his legs is very important.
Yep. William Wojcicki says Mordecai without a doubt the MVP. I want to talk there's a couple other comments here I wanted to get to. The first one is bowl practices. Right? We get bowl practices, getting those. This is a comment. I thought this was a good one in the start section here. It's getting bowl practices, but it's also getting bowl practices for extra practice for a coaching staff that now has been here for a year.
Yeah.
I don't think I put the right comment up. Oh, here it is. This is Brian Shetty. Extra practices without the distraction of a new staff coming in. You needed the practices for this team. That's the biggest win of getting to the bowl. Like, this team needs 2 more weeks of practices desperately.
This gives you a chance to play the young guys in the bowl game. Which you wouldn't have probably had. And what that does is it also gives you 2 more weeks of evaluation time for those young guys to see where they've come from. Typically, a week of that is going to be your young guys just developmental time. So you can see how far they've come over the course of the season. You know, that's important for guys that potentially you want to look at going into next year. Like for quarterbacks, Evers, that's going to be huge for him. LaCrue, Burkett. They all get an opportunity to kind of show what they've learned over the course of the season, where they developed. It gives them a chance to put a positive impression in the coaching staff's eyes heading into spring ball. So maybe they get a couple of opportunities that aren't expected. If you have a really good bowl practice, like this is a chance for a guy like Evers to make a jump into the number 3 or number 2 spot for next year and push and say, all right, we need to give him the opportunity. He looked incredible during bowl prep.
Curtis called it 24-17. You heard it here first. That's a great call, Curtis. Drew Andrus, this is a good question here. Chimray's dinged up. Pauling was dinged up for a bit. You don't have Bryson Green. A little weird that you don't see CJ potentially step up.
It was interesting. Was he even out there much?
So I'd have to rewatch.
I would too. I saw Quincy. I mean, we obviously saw Quincy out there a little bit. I know he was targeted once, but I don't remember seeing him on the field much. So it's hard for me to really look at this one and say what's happening there. Maybe he's dinged up. I don't know. And maybe like it's so hard to read into any of it. I don't want to say that there's, anything going on there, but you didn't get what you wanted out of him this game. This would have been a good game for him to make some plays. You know, it was really nice seeing Quincy out there, and actually Quincy looked really athletic and fast, like a couple of times. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe he was the one that ran up the seam on the play that they were talking about that we should have been throwing it to. They mentioned throwing to Pauling, and I'm like,
open.
Yeah, I'm like, no, I'm throwing to the guy up the middle who should have been an obvious pass play to Mordecai that for whatever reason he didn't throw the football. And I'm like, he's wide open. There's nobody on him. Now, maybe he was. I think he waits until a guy actually breaks open and then throws, and that's when things close. Like you have to, that anticipation has to be there. Mordecai, that's where the big play. And he does not anticipate well.
He does not. Mordecai holds the ball. It's frustrating. That's the one thing. And it's consistent all year. You were on that early, Justin. Like he just doesn't let it rip. But again, like no turnover state. Like I'm going to focus. Most but
I mean, for all his flaws, he was the reason we won this game. So
let's talk a couple rapid fire things that I thought were interesting. Vinny Anthony had a really nice punt return. He's pretty good as a returner. And then
had a nice catch on a ball that was a bad throw too.
Had a nice catch kind of behind him. Yep. Had a huge moment. And then you mentioned Quincy Burrows. I wanted to talk about him a little bit. I can tell you from discussions I've had with somebody in the program, like they really like him. He is a big, like 6'2", 200-pound guy who runs like a 4.45.
Yeah.
They really like him.
He's a legit dude.
Yeah.
So he's just young. I mean, he's what, a redshirt freshman? So he's effectively CJ Williams' age. And I he's a guy who I expect to, really flash coming into the spring here. We'll hear a lot more about Quincy heading into this next season.
Hey, let me ask you this, because this is something I found interesting. I thought, and Owen Johnson mentions my boy Aker had a few nice runs up the gut. I thought that he could have got a few more touches. Like, to me, Aker ran pretty well, finished with 8 carries. Braylon had 22.
Yeah. Given how dinged up Braylon was, I would have been okay with us swapping them a little bit more and keeping Braylon a little fresher. A couple of those runs that Braylon had for 3 yards, it's like you're getting 3 yards of him or Aker. It's not going to change based off of that. So just whoever. Like in this game, I probably would have had Braylon on a little more of a pitch count. Obviously you keep him in it for bigger moments when you really need a tough run. But I think that there were some of those runs where it's like, it's 2nd and 7. Sure, throw Aker out there and get the run.
Also,
he picks up 3 yards. He picks up 3 yards. Yes, he did.
And really nice catch in the wheel route. Williams says Aker's bruising. Mitch said he finished out of pads, so maybe Aker got dinged up, and I didn't know that.
That could be too.
That would answer that. Thomas Miller said Braylon was feeling it, though. I thought he was finally feeling good. And yeah, I think that's fair. There's another comment up here I want to get to. Ryan says, "What's up, lads?" Ryan Eilers is always doing good there. This is what I want to maybe finish on. Phil Dickert brings it up. Kept fighting after being down 14-0. Great win, played hard. Justin, this was a week where Wohler basically questioned the heart of the team. Luke Fickell did, and then kind of said he didn't say that, but he kind of did. Yeah. Right? Tanner Mordecai did. I feel like it would have been easy for a team kind of reeling with a first-year coach. Certainly not meeting expectations. The crowd was not there at the start for sure. Down 14-0. It would have been pretty easy to roll over if the team gave a crap, and they didn't do that.
They were playing really hard for stretches of this game. Like there was a couple times where the defense looked downright good. And there were also some times, the 3rd and longs normally, which we were looking at, where it's like, what is going on out here with these pass plays? It's 3rd and 12, and we just let guys run wide open until they catch the ball. And then it's like, all right, now we can knock them down. It's like, no, how about we just cover?
Yeah. Those 3rd and longs on defense, or the 2nd and 20s on defense, are aggravating this year because they consistently give those up. And I don't understand. It's bad tackling.
That to me is mental. Like you're not locked in on what you're supposed to be doing. You're not reading correctly how the play's playing out. Like, not that the Nebraska offense is like reading Tolstoy or something like that. You've seen these plays from every offense you've played against. Like, I'm sure they're not showing you anything that's got so much eye candy that you shouldn't pick up on what's going on. That first touchdown from that pass was like, what are you guys doing? Like, I have no clue how you let that pass get completed on that.
And then 3 people miss tackles and he just waltzes into the end zone. That's poor football. Again, it goes back to the start. Like, you have to start better, and it's been consistent all year. And I mean, they're lucky they won this one. They're lucky they won in Illinois. I mean, I shouldn't say they're lucky. Like, you win who you win, but like they have to fix that. Going into next year, that has to be a problem of the past.
Drew Andrus said this felt very Joe Barry-like 2.0, and I agree with that. Like, he's the much maligned Packers defensive coordinator. You can look like a good defensive coordinator, but your defense can also be bad in situational football, and that's what Wisconsin has right now. They are poor in third and long situational football, where they consistently make mistakes and give up big plays that they should not. And that is something that needs to be rectified. And hopefully it is next season, but it is a problem for this team where the defense is not overly terrible, but they have a lot of plays that previous good Wisconsin defenses would not give up.
I'll say this, and I think Justin. So I agree with that point. I think situationally they aren't very good, but you get two good pass rushers in there, and suddenly your third down.
Oh, for 100%. They don't have anybody that has the athleticism to just scream off the edge and come downhill.
Yeah, this team does not have that right now. William says Purdy's a good quarterback. Yeah, Brock. Not
Chubba was solid in this game, but yeah, he wasn't the guy. He's not a guy that I'm necessarily afraid of, other than his legs coming into like overtime. No, he's not a guy mentally I'm worried about carving us up.
No, I agree. Like, there was a point he was 10-12 in the game going into halftime, but a lot of that there was just really open throws. Like, I thought the defense wasn't locked in. It wasn't locked in to start. All right, let's wrap it there. Yeah, my camera does that too, Justin. It drives me nuts. Let's wrap it there. But final thought on this one, Justin, a player we didn't talk about, or a big moment in the game. I got one big moment that we haven't talked about yet that I want to get into, and then I have one more comment over here.
Maybe we didn't talk about Vinny Anthony enough, but he did some really nice things in this game. It's good to see another young guy. I guess all the young guys, Allegro, Quincy Burrows, it's nice seeing those guys out there making plays and showing up on things on defense. I wish we had some more defensive linemen. I'll plug that from the podcast I threw out earlier today. Wisconsin does not have a very deep defensive line room right now, and it's something that really needs to be rectified going forward, and I think will be. But we just don't have young guys to put in. Like, Jamel Howard is not going to be a guy that you're going to experiment with late in the season where you're worried about potentially getting gutted, especially by the number one run team that in the conference.
Yep.
So
no, the defense line has to get a lot deeper and better this offseason. That's completely true. The one spot I wanted to talk about that we didn't really talk about was early in the game, Nebraska had all the momentum in the world. They get that 4th and 1. If they convert that, they likely score on that drive, and it's suddenly 21-0.
Yep.
Right. That play was made by Ben Barton. I know the announcers gave a lot of love to Rico coming off the edge. Barton blew up the center, went 4 yards into the offensive backfield, changed them where the running back had to go, and then Rico tripped him up.
Yeah.
That was maybe the biggest play of that first half because it stops their momentum right there. So I wanted to mention that. And then I want to throw this comment to end on. Gardner Fickle, who does great work over at Badger Notes, said, Nebraska top 20 defense, top 5 run defense, and we imposed our will second quarter, third quarter. Didn't finish, but that is a good point. There was a period in there, Justin, we were texting about me, you and Rasheed. We're like, this feels good. This portion of the game feels like we are actually physically moving people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's nice to see the offensive line do some things in the run game where you're like, all right, we're actually pushing people around a little bit and able to get things going. That's what we did consistently against Nebraska for a very long period of time. So it's nice to see it. And this is listen, I know they're 5-6 now, but this is a much better Nebraska team from the situational, like we talked about. Wisconsin's been rough situationally. They're much improved in terms of the mental lapses that we've seen on previous Nebraska teams. They're fairly disciplined. Rule is actually doing a pretty good job with them. But they don't really, Purdy may turn into their best quarterback based off of this, but they haven't had a quarterback, which has been a massive problem for them. And they don't have depth because they constantly have turnover on that team, which, I'm sure that will change some with Rule now that there's a little bit more, things being some consistency within the program. But
they're going to be a better program with him.
Yeah, this is the best I've seen a Nebraska team look in a while.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Rapid fire on some of these. Thomas Miller, Vinny Anthony's catch in overtime was the play of the game, in my opinion.
It was big. It was huge.
Yeah, I lost my mind when he did that. I was already settled mentally for a tough field goal attempt. Drew Andrus says, I appreciate the love, guys. Great stream. Thanks, Drew, for dialing in for sure. Eric Bankston, Allegro will be the best player on defense, possibly as soon as game 1 of next year. High praise.
There's a chance for it.
Yep. Jason Now and Varner has been disappointing. Agreed. He hasn't.
Well,
You're hoping for a pass rusher.
Well, this is why when people talk about bringing in defensive linemen in the portal, no, if you're a good defensive lineman at a program, you're in the 2 deep. That's how it works. You're not transferring when you're playing.
B. Vault, who is a good friend of the show, Rule was the right choice.
He was.
Yep.
I agree with that.
All right, we're going to wrap it there because we could go all day. I will take a bunch of these comments, wrap them up. I'll do a wrap-up show like I usually do. Justin and Rajiv will also recap and dive into this game more tomorrow on their show, Bucky Report. Thank you, everybody, for dialing in. Justin, thank you for joining as always. Feels good to get a win.
It does. On Wisconsin, everybody.
On Wisconsin. And I'm going to play this one more time on the way out.
It's a good day for me. Come on in here, buddy. Get up on that line.
End the stream. Let's go. By the line,